The American Revolutionary War, a tumultuous period that birthed a nation. At the heart of it all was Benjamin Franklin, a man whose charisma and wit were as powerful as his intellect. As the American colonies dared to challenge the might of the British Empire, they were under no illusions about the enormity of their undertaking. The Founding Fathers, while idealistic and inspired by Enlightenment principles, were acutely conscious of the uphill battle they faced against a wealthier and more powerful adversary. Before the war, Franklin had already made a name for himself on the global stage, thanks to his remarkable inventions and discoveries. This fame followed him to Paris, where he was welcomed as a celebrity. Yet his journey to France was not one of leisure. He was on a mission assigned by none other than the Second Continental Congress, the governing body of America at the time. As the war raged on, the Second Continental Congress made a pivotal decision to send Franklin to France, kick-starting a diplomatic mission that would shape the course of history. In October 1776, Franklin embarked on his journey to France, not merely as a celebrated personality, but as a secret envoy with a mission. Franklin, at age 70, was putting his life on the line. Not only was the Atlantic crossing treacherous for all of the normal reasons, such as stormy seas, shipboard illnesses, and piracy, but also because he was also sailing as a traitor. By signing the Declaration of Independence just months earlier in July of 1776, Franklin would have been hanged if captured by the British Navy. Franklin survived the arduous journey, which was his 7th transatlantic crossing. Benjamin Franklin's name echoed around the globe, thanks to his remarkable inventions and discoveries. His fame had already reached the shores of France before he did, painting him as a celebrity in the eyes of the French. Yet, Benjamin was more than just a celebrity. He was a man on a mission that would alter the course of history. As America's first foreign ambassador, Franklin found himself in Paris, tasked by the Second Continental Congress with a crucial assignment: to enlist France's support for the Revolutionary War, a war that pitted the fledgling American colonies against the mighty British Empire. This was no small task, and Franklin knew it. The odds were against them, but the Founding Fathers, guided by Enlightenment principles, were not ones to back down easily. They were idealistic, yes, but also realistic about their chances. And so Franklin embarked on his secret mission, armed with his wit, charm, and a strategic mind. Even the foreign ambassadors stationed in France were not sure why the famed scientist had come to Paris. Maybe he came to France for his health. Maybe he came to ensure that his 16-year-old grandson, William Temple Franklin, who accompanied Franklin on the journey, received a proper European education. Or maybe he came to Europe to retire to a Swiss chateau with his vast wealth. In Paris, Franklin was a man with a plan, and that plan was to win the hearts of the French. He utilized his charm, his diplomacy, and his celebrity status to the fullest, navigating the intricate maze of French politics and society. His first 18 months in Paris were fruitless. The Continental Army suffered a string of defeats. It seemed the Americans did not have a fighting chance. Versailles was quietly supportive of the revolution, but the French crown could not risk openly backing America and angering the British. So Franklin played the waiting game. Instead of scheduling frequent meetings with the French foreign minister, the Count de Vergennes, Franklin attended salons with influential aristocrats. Franklin would claim that Washington commanded an army of 80,000 men, when 14,000 was closer to the truth. Franklin would laugh off the news of every British victory. He would claim the Patriots had superior firepower, fiercer fighters, and more than anything, an unquenchable thirst for freedom, and that the British would need a much larger army to beat them. None of his claims were true, of course. In fact, the Americans were dangerously low on supplies and outgunned in every battle. In private, Franklin was deeply worried and anxious. In December of 1777, Franklin received both good news and bad news. First, the bad news. The British had occupied Philadelphia, the American capital at the time, and George Washington's army had retreated to winter camp at Valley Forge. The good news, however, was fantastic. In October of 1777, led by General Benedict Arnold, the Americans had dealt a stunning defeat to the British at the Battle of Saratoga, capturing British General John Burgoyne and his men. Franklin did not need to bluff anymore. Versailles was so impressed by the decisive victory at Saratoga that France signed treaties of alliance with the Americans on February 6, 1778. So, just to reiterate, Franklin was a busy man in Paris, attending parties, social events, and ingratiating himself at the French court. However, Franklin was not just in Paris to enjoy the fanfare. He was also playing a high-stakes game of diplomacy, bluffing his way to an alliance and all the while maintaining his celebrity image. The mission was clear, the stakes were high, but Franklin was relentless. His goal was not just to win France's support, but to convince them that backing the American cause was in their best interest. Franklin ultimately won the high-stakes game of diplomacy, securing a military alliance with France in February 1778, a move that proved instrumental in America's victory in the Revolutionary War. Despite initial skepticism, Franklin's strategic diplomacy led to a historical alliance in February 1778. This was not just a handshake and a promise, it was a full-fledged military alliance with France. Franklin, the celebrity diplomat, had managed to turn the tide in favor of the fledgling United States. As America's first foreign ambassador, Franklin's mission was twofold. Firstly, to secure the trust and support of the French government, and secondly, to obtain the much-needed resources for the Revolutionary War, such as money, weapons, uniforms, ammunition, and other critical supplies. On top of that, Franklin's home outside of Paris in the village of Passy was continuously barraged with visitors, each seeking an audience with the famous American ambassador, inventor, and scientist. And Franklin always made time for guests, invited or not. The odds were stacked against him, but Franklin was not one to back down from a challenge. He used his wit, charm, and reputation to his advantage, weaving his way through the intricate tapestry of French society and politics. From the grand salons of Paris to the opulent halls of Versailles, Franklin was the embodiment of the American cause, a symbol of resistance against the mighty British Empire. And his efforts bore fruit. In February 1778, a year and a half after his arrival in Paris, the French government signed a military alliance with America. This was no small feat. France was not just pledging words of encouragement, they were promising soldiers, supplies, French naval support, and the financial aid that was crucial for America's war effort. This alliance was more than just a strategic partnership. It was a lifeline for the American cause. It was an acknowledgement of the United States as a sovereign nation, a validation of the American Revolution. It was also a strong statement against Britain, a show of defiance from its longtime rival. Yet, the alliance was not without its risks. France, a monarchy, was aligning itself with a revolution against a fellow monarchy. It was a gamble, a roll of the dice in the grand game of geopolitics. But for Franklin, it was a risk worth taking. The alliance with France was not just a military pact. It was a lifeline for the American cause. And Franklin, with his diplomatic acumen and indomitable spirit, was the architect of this unlikely alliance. In late February of 1778, the stage was set for a clash of personalities when John Adams arrived in Paris to aid Franklin. Indeed, the two founding fathers could not have been more different. Franklin, the seasoned diplomat, was a master of charm and wit, always ready with a clever quip or engaging anecdote. He moved with ease through the glittering halls of the French court, his popularity and celebrity status making him a favorite among the French elite. Contrastingly, Adams was a straight-talking New Englander, a man of principle and propriety. He was baffled by the courtly manners and elaborate rituals of French society. Adams could not believe Franklin was the same man who wrote the Poor Richard's Almanac, a book filled with proverbs preaching to be industrious and prudent. Adams could not comprehend Franklin's ease in the world of parties and social flattery. Their differences extended to their diplomatic styles as well. Franklin understood that in France, political power resided within the royal court, not in bureaucratic offices. Thus, he worked tirelessly to ingratiate himself with the French nobility, using his charm and wit to win their favor. On the other hand, Adams, with his forthright demeanor, struggled to navigate the subtle nuances of French diplomacy. He often found himself at odds with Franklin, questioning his methods and doubting their effectiveness. Yet despite their differences and the tension between them, both men were committed to their mission. Adams and Franklin were two sides of the same coin, both instrumental to the American cause, yet starkly different in their methods. Their clash of personalities and diplomatic styles, though challenging, ultimately contributed to the successful negotiation of the treaties that secured France's support for the Revolutionary War. When the British surrendered to George Washington at Yorktown, they did so to forces that were nearly equal parts French and American, all fed, clothed and paid by France, and protected by a French navy. With the signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783, Franklin's mission was accomplished, marking the end of the Revolutionary War and his return to America. The treaty, negotiated by Franklin, John Adams, and John Jay, was a testament to the diplomacy and grit of these American statesmen. It was a robust negotiation that saw King George III of Great Britain formally recognize American independence and cede most of its territory east of the Mississippi River to the United States. This effectively doubled the size of the new nation, paving the way for its westward expansion. Yet Franklin's diplomacy had far-reaching consequences beyond the shores of America. In an ironic twist of fate, France, which had opened its coffers to aid the unproven Americans, found itself on the brink of bankruptcy. The financial strain of supporting the American cause had destabilized the French government, setting the stage for the French Revolution. As Franklin set foot on American soil once again, he was not merely coming home. He was returning as a triumphant statesman who had navigated the turbulent waters of international diplomacy to secure the future of his nation, even as his actions inadvertently sparked a revolution in another.
Thank you for watching. Hope you found this video informative and entertaining. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. We do like to know and hear your feedback. And if you have the means, please consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can get early access to our videos, and where we post bonus material. Till next time, this is Geeky Tidbits saying cheers and have a good day.